What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adobe Photoshop Masterclass course. We are continuing on. This one is going to be important tools. Now, we are, more or less, my idea for this is just to go down the toolbar right here and tell you guys what I use, what I don't use. As, you know, I would describe myself as a veteran Photoshop user. I'm not the single best Photoshop user in the world, but I definitely am not the single worst. And I've had, years and years of extensive experience. At this point, I believe that I know the tools that are relevant and the tools that aren't. However, I will preface this. Some of you guys might be doing some different graphic design than I personally do. Normal stuff that I do, thumbnails, banners, etc., stuff like that. More social media encompassing stuff. So if you're out there and you're designing some, next level stuff that maybe I'm not involved in, potentially you guys will be reaching for other tools. But these are the general tools that you're going to 100% need to know to be maneuvering. Now, first off, the self-explanatory one, it's called the Move Tool. I call it the Selection Tool because that's pretty much what all Adobe programs call this thing. The Move Tool, the Selection Tool, we don't even really have to go over that. You select it and you can click and hold objects and move them around. Very simple, very, very straightforward. Pretty much the name of the game, super simple. Now we've got the Marquee Tool. The Marquee Tool or the Marquee, pretty sure it's the Marquee Tool. This is going to be something we're going to be messing with extensively in the next section, which is cropping and resizing. We're also going to be revisiting the good old Control-T resize adjustment tool, but we're going to kind of get to that a little bit more in the next section, or the next episode, if you will. Next up is going to be the Lasso Tool, which is something that personally I don't really use too often based on the simple fact that I'm usually using the masking tool for that. And the masking tool is a little bit more of a precise version of this. This is cool, as you see, for making sort of freehand selections, but the masking tool, which is something we got a whole little section coming up with, aka the pen tool. Actually, I just call it the masking tool because I'm, sort of normally in the mind of doing video editing, and that's what it's called in video editing. But the pen tool, aka the masking tool, is something that is more or less that, but just to show you, the lasso will enable you to draw selections around stuff. So, for example, say we wanted to select, a circle in here. We could do that, and then maybe we just press delete, and we could delete a specific section. Or, like I said, if we wanted to maybe draw maybe like a letter or whatever. But again, there's definitely better ways to do that, right? But as you see right there, that is more or less a selection kind of tool. This right here we quickly covered, which is the quick selection tool. So for example, let's just say that we had a let's just actually draw the lasso, use the lasso tool, draw that, and make our circle white, right? Say we did that. We could actually go ahead and use something like the all selection tool if, for example, maybe we only wanted to select that or only select the black. Now, actually, we click off and then select the black, and that will select everything but the white. So the all selection tool sort of singles out objects, and that will be an entire, episode coming up next. I think 3 or 4 episodes for now. We're going to do a deep dive into this tool, and I'm going to open up some live images, and we can, isolate certain objects, etc. That's going to be a lot of fun coming up next, but Control Z, just to get off that. I'm going to leave the white circle just in case it serves sort of some purpose going forward. This one right here is the crop tool, something that personally, I'm not using too much. You can use it obviously to crop into stuff. For example, say we want to, maybe just go down there, whatever the case may be. Awesome. That would totally be okay. We could press that. I'm just going to go ahead and press Control Z to undo that, but we can revisit that a little bit more in our next section. I think it's literally this section coming up after this. This tool right here, Frame Tool, personally something I'm not really using very often. Again, creates placeholder frames for images, something that, again, like I said, that might cross over into the section of stuff I don't use too much. But again, I'm going to highlight the stuff that's very, very relevant. Now, this right here is the Eyedropper Tool. This is to select colors. So, as you see down here, we're going to do a color management section at the end to familiarize yourself with this. But these are our colors, right? Currently, it's white because we know here. However, if we bring this Eyedropper Tool and click, whatever color we click over, it will take and make our primary color. Right? So as you see right there, it's black because we've clicked there. If we click here, it's going to be white again. So that right there is how to actually match colors. For example, if we wanted to make text the same color as maybe a hoodie or something someone was wearing in our image, we'd use the Eyedropper tool. We'd select their hoodie, and then we'd have the color. We could make our text the same color, right? The Spot Healing tool, right? This is essentially sort of like a content-aware fill. It's something that, enables us to heal some spots and make it kind of similar. Now, what this does is it sort of goes off another section and fixes it. Now, I wonder if it would do anything to the white right here. It does. Perfect. So it takes what's sort of around it and fills it in. Very interesting right there. I told you it was worth holding on to that white bump so we could go ahead and just give it another demonstration in a bit. We got the brush tool coming up next. Now I'm actually going to kind of skip that temporarily. We'll showcase it quickly, but we got a sort of a section breaking this down. But the brush tool, very self-explanatory. You're going to draw in whatever shade your brush is. So this is sort of a soft round brush. We'll make it like 60, and it'll draw whatever your primary color is. So if we go here and make it green, we know we could draw, you know, the Photoshop logo or something, or, you know, we could even make it a little bit more color themed. Go blue, draw like the Photoshop logo, about as basic as it gets right there. But I'm sure you guys just had a little laugh at my amazing skills. Clearly, I was meant to be a cartoonist, and, you know, I got lost being a presenter of courses. But overall, that right there is the good old-fashioned brush tool, very self-explanatory. The stamp, clone stamp tool, something that we're going to skip for now, potentially come back to the history brush tool, skip again, and we'll jump to the eraser, which is exactly sort of the opposite of what we just did there. It is a eraser tool. It's going to cut through whatever's in front of us. Control Z to undo that. The paint bucket tool, which is actually going to go ahead and mass create whatever we click on into the color. So for example, if we wanted to kind of get that little Photoshop blue that was going on probably right there, and click, boom, everything gets changed to that. And the smudge tool, awesome tool for creating some detail in the background, but for an all image, it's basically does nothing. But for example, if we were to let's just say we drew that out and made that white or whatever, right? Boom, and we get the smudge tool, and we wanted to do kind of like a little ghetto-ness to it. Maybe we could smudge out the edges or whatever, right? And this is pretty cool for maybe some backgrounds and stuff like that. A lot of the time, maybe we'll have an object that I want to push off the screen or something, so I can use the smudge tool often to kind of push it off the screen, etc., if that's making sense. Like, for example, if that object was right there and I wanted the white to fully go off the screen, a lot of the time using the smudge tool to kind of bring that off is kind of a cool little strategy. But I'm actually just going to go ahead and press Control Z, undo all that, bring it back, hold Control Z down until it basically goes back to normal. We did our demonstration, as you see, doing our demonstration. Control Z, I'm actually just going to go ahead and highlight over all this, and I'm going to go ahead and get my eyedropper tool, copy the color of the background, take my actual paint brush tool, my paint bucket tool, click there, and as we see, we're actually also going to need to go over it with the brush tool to make sure these edges are fine. And just like that, that was actually a great mess up because it helped us to further demonstrate what we've been doing. That was awesome. I'm big on that. Dodge tool, we're actually going to copy we're going to skip rather for the time being, but it is basically not applicable on our scene, but we can use it to actually enhance certain areas of our image, as we see right here. It's kind of cool, the little preview that they give us. You see it kind of hovers over a flower and makes it a little brighter. Something that I honestly don't use too much for the sake is I usually use adjustment layers over here. However, that is actually very, very relevant and can be more relevant to certain projects or not, certain users or not. Pen tool, aka mask tool, is essentially we can construct shapes, etc. This is going to be very relevant in making custom shapes, etc. when we get on. Control Z to undo that, but we have a section coming up specifically on the pen tool, so I'm skipping that sort of for now. The text tool, you click and you can write some text. Text 1, keep in mind the color. It will choose your primary color usually, so in this case, you couldn't see it, but just like that, we can press Control T and use this. Scale it up, text 1. Awesome. It's looking pretty nice. It's looking pretty great. This right here, which is the path selection tool, so more or less, yeah, you can, again, move some stuff around, etc., right? I really do not use the path selection tool much. This right here is going to come up extensively in a minute in the shapes and objects section, but more or less this is a shape creator. Rectangle tool, you create a rectangle. Again, that will use our primary color. So for example, let's go here, right? Do a white. Again, we can press Control T to get the resizer up. Awesome. Maybe we go here and we do ellipse, whatever. Basically, shape creation. Those are default shapes. If we click and hold, it will show us all the different shapes, but we have a shape section coming up. The hand tool, which is how to actually maneuver in your sort of area here without moving too much, and the zoom tool, which is very, very useful, very applicable, something you'll be using a lot all throughout the course of your extend the course of your Photoshop use at the end of the day. So that right there concludes the important the important tools. And we are going to keep on cracking on. At the end of the day, that is a brief overview. The real, thorough ingraining of these tools is going to come through use. So I'm very keen just to get through the sort of walkthrough demonstration parts and start actually doing some hands-on projects together, which is really where the memory, so to speak, of these different tools and shortcuts is definitely going to come in. So with that being said, let's move on with the course.